Our story, part 29, when Leslie walked in. In the last story, I told you how the thrift store began. God had given us a location. He had given us displays. He had given us inventory from Go Bananas. People had started bringing donations, and we had a vision for what the thrift store could become. But there was one problem. We no idea how to run a thrift store. There was another problem too. We did not really have a budget for it. We needed money for basic things. Displays, signs, supplies, equipment. The kind of things you need before a store is really ready to function. And once again, God provided in a way we did not see coming. On the back part of the church property, there was a cell tower. The company that owned the tower had been renting that space from us and paying the church around $600 or $700 a month. One day they approached us with an offer. They wanted to give us $100,000 in exchange for no longer having to make monthly lease payments. We would still own the property. The tower would stay where it was. They just would not owe us the monthly payment anymore. At first we had to think that through carefully. But when we did the math, it was actually a very good deal. And just like that, God gave us $100,000. Money we did not have. Money we did not know how badly we were going to need. Money that allowed us to pour into the thrift store. We bought displays. We bought supplies. We put up a beautiful sign so people would know we were there. We were able to get the building ready to be a real thrift store. A good thrift store. But as I said in the last episode, the ministry grew quickly. Almost too quickly. The church was already large. We had a full staff. We had other ministries happening in the community. I was pastoring, teaching, leading, counseling, and trying to keep up with everything else. And then I was also at the thrift store almost every day, trying to figure out how to make that work too. It became too much. The thrift store was a thriving ministry, but I could not carry it. I remember praying, Lord, I do not want to shut this down. It is helping people. It is touching lives, but we need help. That is when Leslie came into the story. Leslie had been an executive leader in a grocery store company. She was not just working in a store. She was one of the leaders. Her store was used to train other managers because of how well it was run. She knew systems. She knew people. She knew organization. She knew how to take something busy and make it work. And God knew we needed her. Leslie had first come to the church because her boyfriend was attending. He brought her, and she began coming. She had an LDS background, but she did not know much about Jesus in the way we were teaching him from the Bible. But as she sat under the teaching of the Word, God began moving in her heart. That still, small voice began speaking to her. And one Sunday morning, Leslie gave her heart to Jesus. Not long after that, while she was sitting in church and I was preaching, she sensed the Lord say something to her. Someday you are going to work for that man. She did not know what that meant. I certainly did not know what that meant. A couple years later, Leslie was serving in the church. She was an usher. She loved Jesus. We knew her somewhat, but I did not really know the details of her background or all the leadership experience God had built into her life. Then one Sunday morning, I saw her in the foyer, and instantly I had this thought: talk to her about ministry. So I walked up to her and said, "What are you doing with your life?" That is probably not the smoothest opening line. She just looked at me. Then I said something like, "Wouldn't it be better than making all that money and giving all that energy to a grocery store company if you gave your life to serving the Lord here with us?" Then I said, "Why don't you come on staff and help us at the church?" Honestly, part of me almost thought it was a joke. There was no way she was going to leave a secure, well-paying executive job to come work for the church for a much smaller amount of money. But Leslie started crying. She told me that morning was her birthday, and she said the Lord had already told her that morning that I was going to ask her to come on staff. That got my attention. It also made me a little nervous, because I remember thinking, I do not even know if we can pay her. But I knew God was doing something. I had seen him do things like this before, little unusual moments. Little divine interruptions. The kind of moments where God starts moving someone into the calling he has for them. I was not surprised God could do it. I was just surprised because I did not see it coming. Leslie came on staff, and because of her skill, leadership, and love for Jesus, she very quickly became my personal assistant. And then I asked her to help me with the thrift store. I said, "Leslie, I need you to help me fix this." Not because the ministry was broken in heart. The heart was good. The need was real. People were being helped. But operationally, it needed help. A lot of help. Leslie stepped in at the very moment I was about ready to shut it down. And she changed everything. What had felt overwhelming and stressful began to take shape. Systems were built. People were organized. Processes were improved. The store became more polished. The ministry became stronger. And the mission stayed the same. Help people. Love people. Pray for people. Tell people about Jesus. Over time, the thrift store became one of my favorite ministries we ever had. And it was never just Leslie. Dulcie had been there from the beginning and continued to be such an important part of the story. John helped. Jessica helped. Angelica helped. And many others served, led, volunteered, donated, sorted, cleaned, carried furniture, prayed with people, and loved the community. Today, the thrift store has a large staff and many volunteers. Every day, items go out to help people. The rescue mission has been helped. Other ministries have been helped. Families have been helped. People in crisis have been helped. And many people have walked through those doors and discovered that the thrift store was not just a place to buy something inexpensive. It was a place where people cared, a place where people prayed, a place where people loved Jesus, a place where ministry happened. I still think about how close I was to shutting it down. And then God brought Leslie. That is how he works. He provides the money before you know you need it. He opens the door before you know where it leads. And sometimes, right when you are ready to quit, he sends the person you did not even know to ask for. Calvary Thrift Store became one of the great blessings of my life. And one of the reasons it did is because at just the right time, Leslie walked in.